Hey, what's up? I'm glad you're here because we've got a solid patch to unpack for Romeo is a Dead Man. One of the biggest headaches players ran into was a progression blocking bug in Chapter 4. If you died during that boss and your most recent save was sitting in Subspace, the character would fall forever and the game would basically stop progressing. The devs recognized how brutal that was. Imagine finishing an intense fight only to find your save unusable, and they've patched it so that the fall loop is resolved. If you were already in that broken state, the workaround built into the update is straightforward. Letting the character die once will restore normal gameplay for those affected saves, which is a strange but welcome fix. Performance got some attention too, specifically on PC when DLSS was enabled. Players reported big frame drops under certain rendering conditions, and the studio dug into that behavior and corrected the issue, so frame pacing and frame rates are a lot more stable now in those scenarios. If you're on a machine that leans on NVIDIA upscaling, you should notice the smoother output and fewer jarring dips when a scene gets busy. Alongside that, the update also fixed a quirk where language settings wouldn't always apply correctly, which meant some players had menus or voiceovers not matching their chosen language. That got ironed out as part of the same batch of Steam fixes. The graphics menu itself went through a minor but meaningful redesign, particularly around upsampling options. Previously, there was a separate upsampling quality slider, and then distinct quality presets for FSR3, DLSS, and XeSS. The team moved to simplify that flow by tying upsampling quality directly to the main graphics quality setting, which now sits right below the upsampling method in the menu. The practical effect is that instead of juggling two separate controls, you change graphics quality and the upsamplers follow suit. The presets have also expanded. Where there used to be 3 levels, performance, balanced, quality, there are now 5 tiers, low, medium, high, very high, and ultra high. And here's a neat bit for people chasing the sharpest picture. Ultra high forces the internal render to 100% for whatever upscaler you're using, meaning it behaves like an anti-aliasing mode by keeping internal resolution full while still passing through the upscaler pipeline. That should make it easier to understand what each preset does without guessing which slider overrides the other. I should mention that some of the platform-specific fixes were included in earlier notes too. For example, the console builds received attention for background music or BGM issues on first playthroughs, where some tracks were muffled or didn't play correctly, and the devs targeted those audio complaints in the console patches. They also pointed out future work around certain PS5 trophies that weren't progressing correctly, that's being tracked and will receive follow-up fixes when confirmed. Those are the kinds of issues that don't always affect everyone, but when they do, they're very visible, so it's good to see them on the maintenance list. If you're playing on Steam, you might also see the patch referenced in the store and community pages. Services like SteamDB and the publisher channels have the changelog entries listed so you can cross-check what landed in each build. It's always smart to peek at the platform notes after a patch drops because sometimes a fix is platform limited or the timing differs between storefronts. I know a lot of players care about tweaking visuals for the best performance to quality ratio, so the big takeaway here is that the settings are less confusing now. Choose your upsampling method, then use graphics quality to pick the overall target, and the upscalers will obey that choice across 5 clear levels. If you prefer pristine edges and full internal resolution, ultra high does that. If you want to squeeze performance out of a mid-range rig, the lower tiers give you more headroom without hunting down separate sliders. On top of that, the DLSS frame drop fix should help people who were previously wondering whether the tech was actually netting them gains or introducing stutters. Overall, this update is one of those practical patches that improves playability and addresses pain points rather than adding new bells and whistles. The Chapter 4 save bug fix alone will relieve a lot of frustrated players, and the graphical consolidations make the options menu feel more intentional. The developer team clearly prioritized stability and clarity, which is exactly what you want from a mid-release patch. Alright, that's the wrap on what changed in this release. If you were waiting on fixes to get back into a stalled run or tuning visuals for better frame rates, this update should address most of the big blockers and make the settings easier to understand. Enjoy getting back into the game and seeing how these tweaks feel in your own playthrough. The improvements are small in description, but meaningful in practice, especially during those tense boss encounters and demanding graphical moments.